Welcome to our US Briefing Show, folks. Today, we've got some exciting updates straight from the North American and global stage. First up, Canada is making a bold move by rescinding its digital services tax to jumpstart trade negotiations with the United States. This tax was a sticking point, but now, with it gone, both countries are aiming for a big trade deal by July 2025. It's a classic case of diplomacy in action, folks. Next, over in China, factory activity is showing signs of bouncing back in June, thanks to easing U.S. trade tensions. While manufacturing is still shrinking overall, the pace has slowed down, and exports are stabilizing. It's a cautious but hopeful sign for China's economy, though experts warn there are still hurdles ahead. Finally, in the U.S., the fight for civil rights and democracy is hitting a pivotal moment. At a major Detroit event, leaders sounded the alarm about threats to American ideals, urging citizens to stand up and get involved. It's a reminder that democracy is always a work in progress, and your voice matters. Please continue to stay tuned for the full stories, and thanks for joining us on US Briefing. CNN reports that Canada is taking a strategic step to mend its strained trade relationship with the United States by rescinding its digital services tax, a move aimed at reigniting negotiations that had been stalled after US President Donald Trump canceled talks, citing the tax as a direct and blatant attack on America. The Canadian government announced that this tax, which was set to take effect retroactively in 2022 and would have impacted major U.S. tech giants like Amazon, Google, and Uber, will be withdrawn to facilitate a broader, mutually beneficial trade agreement. This decision comes amid a tense backdrop where the U.S. had labeled digital services taxes as non-tariff barriers that unfairly restrict American companies' access to international markets, especially in the context of a trade war that has seen fluctuating progress and unpredictable moves by Trump, including threatening to absorb Canada as a U.S. state. The Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, confirmed that negotiations are back on track, with both nations aiming to reach a deal by July 21, 2025, in alignment with G7 commitments, signaling a cautious but hopeful thaw in their economic relations. Associated Press highlights that Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the resumption of trade talks with the U.S. after Canada agreed to rescind its controversial digital services tax, which was scheduled to be implemented imminently. This development followed President Trump's public declaration that he was suspending negotiations over Canada's plan to impose a 3% revenue levy on US-based online firms like Amazon and Google, which would have resulted in a hefty $2 billion US bill for American companies. Trump characterized the tax as an attack on US interests, intensifying the trade tensions that have marked their relationship since Trump's re-election. Carney's office emphasized that the move to revoke the tax was made in anticipation of a broader trade deal, with both leaders agreeing to resume negotiations with a target date of July 21, 2025. This episode underscores the roller coaster nature of US-Canada trade relations, where diplomatic efforts are often punctuated by aggressive tariffs and countermeasures, yet recent steps suggest a willingness to find common ground and restore stability to their economic ties. South China Morning Post reports that China's factory activity showed a slight rebound in June, with the official Purchasing Managers' Index, PMI, edging up to 49.7 from 49.5 in May, yet still remaining in contractionary territory for the third consecutive month. This modest improvement followed recent de-escalation efforts between Beijing and Washington, which saw the reduction of tariffs and a renewed sense of momentum in China's export sector, as evidenced by the rise in new orders and export sub-indices. Despite these signs of stabilization, China faces ongoing challenges such as a sluggish property market, persistent deflation, and declining industrial profits, which fell over 9% in May. Analysts remain cautious, noting that weaker export growth and fading fiscal stimuli could slow economic activity in the latter half of the year. Meanwhile, the non-manufacturing sector, including services and construction, experienced a slight uptick, but experts warn that the overall outlook remains uncertain, especially as smaller private firms and export-oriented companies continue to grapple with the lingering effects of trade tensions and global economic headwinds. The Detroit Free Press vividly captures the urgent tone of the NAACP's Fight for Freedom Fund dinner, where President Wendell Anthony passionately declared that democracy in America is hanging by a fragile thread. Amidst the backdrop of a city grappling with violence and inequality, Anthony emphasized that civil rights are under attack from the current administration's actions, calling for racial unity and resilience. Maryland Governor Wes Moore, the event's keynote speaker, offered a hopeful perspective, highlighting Maryland's investments in historically black colleges and the city's focus on equity-driven economic development as a blueprint for progress. The event underscored a critical moment for the nation, urging citizens to step up in the face of rising disrespect, anti-American sentiments, and threats to democratic values. South China Morning Post paints a stark picture of Russia's waning global influence, revealing how Moscow's strategic neglect and military overstretch have diminished its once formidable standing. The Kremlin's muted response to Iran's conflict with Israel exemplifies its diminished capacity to support allies, a stark contrast to its previous assertiveness during the annexation of Crimea and involvement in Syria. The article details how Russia's war in Ukraine has drained its military and economic resources, leaving it unable to effectively aid its partners like Iran or Syria. As a result, Moscow's credibility is eroding, with nations from Tehran to Yerevan reassessing their alliances and turning toward China for support, exposing Russia's diminished role on the world stage and the peril of overambition. The Sydney Morning Herald offers a vivid account of Donald Trump's relentless push to dominate the political landscape, emphasizing his ability to wield power like an unstoppable force. Despite setbacks, Trump's strategic maneuvers, such as pressuring NATO allies to boost defense spending and asserting executive authority, demonstrate his unyielding influence. His provocative rhetoric and aggressive attacks on media and political opponents reveal a leader who refuses to accept constraints, pushing the boundaries of institutional checks. The article also explores how Trump's confrontational style and refusal to back down are shaping the American political climate, with his actions setting the stage for a tumultuous future where his dominance remains unchallenged, yet his ambitions threaten to deepen divisions within the nation and its alliances. Yahoo US reports that the upcoming North Carolina Senate race is set to become a fierce battleground, with Democratic hopes rising due to GOP Senator Thom Tillis' sudden retirement. The Democrats are eyeing former Governor Roy Cooper, who is weighing a bid, believing he offers their best shot at winning the historically challenging seat, which they haven't captured in nearly 2 decades. Meanwhile, Republican contenders are lining up, including potential Trump-aligned candidates like Lara Trump and RNC Chair Michael Whatley, with Donald Trump himself considering involvement and hinting at a possible primary challenge to Tillis. The political landscape is further complicated by Tillis' decision to retire, which Democrats say transforms a difficult race into a more winnable one, especially given Cooper's popularity and the state's shifting voting patterns since 2008. The race is also intertwined with broader GOP struggles, including internal disagreements over Trump's influence, Medicaid policies, and the party's ability to unify behind a strong candidate. Democratic strategists see this as a rare opportunity in a tough map, but acknowledge the race remains competitive, with history showing North Carolina Senate contests typically close. The outcome hinges on the Republican primary dynamics, Trump's endorsements, and whether Democrats can capitalize on the open seat to flip this storied battleground state. Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports a harrowing attack in northwestern Idaho where tragedy struck as at least 2 firefighters responding to a wildfire on Canfield Mountain were ambushed and killed by sniper fire, with shots exchanged over several hours from an unknown suspect hiding amidst rugged terrain. Sheriff Bob Norris described the scene as a tense standoff, with the shooter wielding a high-powered rifle, actively firing at public safety personnel, and the authorities prepared to neutralize the threat. The incident, which left the firefighting community shaken, was characterized by ongoing uncertainty about the number of suspects and casualties, as law enforcement and emergency agencies scrambled to contain the situation while urging the public to stay clear of the area. Idaho Governor Brad Little condemned the assault as a heinous attack on brave firefighters and called for prayers for the victims and their families. The incident unfolded near the popular outdoor recreation area of Canfield Mountain, a lush, heavily wooded landscape crisscrossed with trails, which now bears the scars of violence amid the ongoing wildfire. Authorities, including the Department of Homeland Security, remain on high alert as the shooter remains at large, with firefighting efforts temporarily halted due to the dangerous situation, highlighting a tragic convergence of wildfire response and violent crime in a remote yet accessible part of Idaho. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
News breaks, buzz the ground. Stories spin, walls come down. Voices merge in the sound. Faces mix in the crowd. Broadcasters paint the scene. World events on our screen. Every link a different theme. Words collide in the stream. 6 degrees connect the dots. Background stories more than knots. Hear the voices rise aloft. Truth unveils in every spot. Cultures clash across the globe. Spin the threads in a strobe. Every story wears a robe. Truth and lies in their code. Journalists dig real deep. Secrets out, they don't sleep. Every angle they will keep. In the news we take a leap. New perspectives day by day.